Welcome to this parent webinar on exam empowerment with me, Mary Bradley. In this webinar, we'll look at how you can support your teenager in overcoming exam anxiety and reaching their full potential. So we're going to do three things. We're going to understand exam anxiety. We'll look at some pointers for having that conversation with your teenager, and then we'll look at how we can move forward from there. So we're going to do three things. We're going to understand exam anxiety. We'll look at some pointers for having that conversation with your teenager, and then we'll look at how we can move forward from there. So the first thing that we want to do is to understand exam anxiety. So exam anxiety is an extreme fear of assessment that results in a negative effect on performance. So I just want to zone in on the word extreme, because a certain level of anxiety is healthy and quite helpful. So a certain level of anxiety makes sure that we are prepared and that we're motivated. So in the teenager's case, coming up to exam time, it means that they are studying, it means that they're motivated to do their homework, to turn up to class, it means that they're prepared with their notes, etc. However, when we get to the far end of that scale and anxiety reaches an extremely high level, it really interferes with that teenager's ability to perform in an exam. So despite the fact that they might have studied really hard all year, done all their homework, turned up to class, they still might end up freezing or feeling like their mind has gone blank on the day of an exam. The first key concept to understand when it comes to anxiety is fight, flight, or freeze. And this is an ancient survival instinct that kicks in whenever we sense danger. So whether that danger is real or just perceived, this fight, flight, or freeze survival instinct kicks in. So this means that our body, our behavior, our thoughts, they're all impacted because our body is preparing to face something that's dangerous. And in this case, that danger is the exam, that fear of failure. That's what triggers this anxiety. So it has an impact, firstly, on our physical sensations on our body. Whenever survival instinct has kicked in, our body releases hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, and this really increases our blood pressure, our heart rate, and our breathing becomes quite quick and shallow as well. So remember, your body is preparing to face danger. So this might also mean that we end up sweating a lot, that we might end up feeling sick or having a sore head. So your teenager might come to you reporting that they're feeling sick or that they have a sore head. It also might result in different parts of the body just not working the way they should. And that could be your digestion, it could be needing to go to the toilet more frequently or more urgently than usual. It could be shaking, sweating, mouth going dry. There are so many different ways that anxiety can manifest in the body. It can also really affect your teenager's behaviors. So remember, your teenager is preparing for danger. So whenever we're facing something that is dangerous, we want to avoid, we want to withdraw from it. So your teenager might end up engaging in a lot of avoidant behaviors like procrastination. So they might put off their homework, they might avoid doing it because that they're afraid that they won't be able to overcome the challenges that might lie there. They might try to stay off school on the day of a test. They might put off bedtime because they're afraid or they know that they won't be able to sleep. So it's all about avoiding that danger, and often procrastination because of that overwhelming fear of failure. Exam anxiety can also have a significant effect on your teenager's cognitive functioning. So they might experience racing thoughts, excessive worry, or a lot of negative self talk. So that voice in their head is overly critical and harsh. And of course, all of that really interferes with their ability to focus and concentrate, to recall memories, and to study and do their homework and sit an exam to the best of their ability. So, just having this understanding now, it might help you to recognize some of those behaviors in your own teenager, and it might just help you realize that they're doing these things, that they're avoiding things because they're anxious, or they're feeling sick because they're anxious, or they're talking to themselves in a really negative way because they're anxious. So now that we understand what exam anxiety is, and we might be able to identify it a bit better in our own teenagers after this, now we want to have the conversation. So you might start the conversation just by telling them that you've noticed this and this and this, and that you're worried. And their defenses might go up, but if they if you allow them the time and the space and try not to put any pressure on them, hopefully this conversation will happen, whether it's in that moment or they might come back to you in a day or two's time. Alternatively, your teenager might come to you with this. So if that's the case, I have some tips to help you to navigate your way through this conversation. So the first thing that you want to do is to make time. And I know that family life is extremely demanding. There's 100 things all going on at once, but try to find a time where you will not be disturbed, where you don't have to rush off anywhere. And whenever you do this, it really allows your teenager to open up, allows them to become vulnerable, allows them to feel heard and understood. And whenever they come to you that first time, you could be on your way running out the door or in the middle of making the dinner. And in that time, it's just not realistic to have a real meaningful conversation. So you could just say to them, look, this is really, really important to me. I really, really want to have a meaningful conversation around this. So let's pick a time later where we're not going to be disturbed and I can give you my full attention. Whenever you are in the right time, then, whenever you have the time and the space to give them your full attention, you want to really, really listen. And I know this sounds so simple, but I'll just explain what I mean. So you want to listen really carefully and intently. And this means that we have to avoid interrupting them. We want to avoid asking too many questions and also avoid offering a lot of solutions. So I know asking questions and offering solutions, those things are done out of the best of intentions because we just want to help. But whenever we just sit back and listen, when we let them talk without interruption, it gives them the time and the space to feel what they're feeling, to process their thoughts. And whenever they really feel that they're being heard, they're more likely to continue sharing. If they feel like you're distracted, maybe by the TV or your phone or you're checking the clock, they're really going to shut down on you. They're going to feel like they're not interested in what I'm saying here, so I'm just going to clam up. So just making that effort to really, really sit back and just listen. Let them kind of push the conversation forward. Give them all the space and time they need. So now that your teenager is sure that you're fully vested in what they're saying and they're talking and they're sharing, what they are sharing with you might be upsetting. It might be really difficult for you to hear. And so that's why you have to make an effort to remain calm and controlled. Whenever we can be calm and whenever we can keep our emotions in check, our teenager will be able to see that you are able to handle what they're telling you. If you are showing signs that you are upset or stressed or disappointed by what they're telling you, they're going to start to shut down because they don't want that for you. They don't want you to be upset and stressed. So they might pull back, they might kind of limit what they tell you because they feel like maybe you won't be able to handle it. And also, it may bring back really uncomfortable or unpleasant memories for you whenever you were in school or whenever you were sitting exams, or maybe you experience anxiety yourself. If that's the case, try to avoid projecting your experience of anxiety onto them because their experience could be totally different. And whenever you, again, going back to that listening, whenever you allow them all of that time and space to talk, to share, to really process what they're feeling and thinking, you'll see all the different nuances and all the different issues that they're facing. So, again, now once they have shared with you, you want to validate what they're experiencing. It might be your initial instinct to just tell them not to worry, everything's going to be okay, it's not a big deal, we'll get through it. But in doing that, you might end up minimizing what they're feeling. So instead, you should try and just use phrases like, that's really, really tough. I'm so sorry you're experiencing this. Let's work on this together. We can get through it. And whenever we do that, whenever we validate their experience, whenever we show that we understand how really tough this is, they will again feel seen and they'll feel heard, because whenever we're anxious, it can be really, really isolating. It can be really, really difficult to speak up and to seek support. So, whenever they know that you understand how tough this is for them, they're more likely to come to you for support and to share with you. I would then take a moment to just repeat back what you've heard and what you've understood. This is important because whenever your teenager hears back their experience, what they've been telling you, they might see it or hear it in a different way. They might come to a solution themselves, or they might end up kind of realizing something within it. It also shows them that you were really, really intently listening, that you made a huge effort to understand what they were telling you. And it also allows for the opportunity to clear up any misunderstandings. Finally, then, you want to work together on this. So I know as a parent, we just want to wave a magic wand and fix all of their problems, but we want to allow them the opportunity to problem solve this issue themselves. So we are there to support them, to guide them through the process, but we don't want to offer them all of the solutions or tell them what to do. So let them know that you're going to work together on this. When we give our teenager time to brainstorm and problem solve themselves, we end up giving them the skills to build resilience and build coping skills. So you are, of course, there to support and guide, but you want to let them know that you're going to be approaching this problem, this issue together. And just wrap up the conversation then with expectations. So sometimes our teenagers can feel huge pressure from within themselves, or sometimes it's from external factors like school, peer groups, their friends. And a lot of the time, people think that parents put a lot of pressure on their teenagers or on students. But I find that that's actually not the case a lot of the time, that teenagers might think that their parent has huge expectations for them. But ultimately, I find that parents really just are looking out for the well being of their teenager. So it's really, really important just to reinforce that, to just let them know that you are proud no matter what results that they get, that you admire and recognize all the hard work, all the effort that they've put in, all the days that they've showed up to school when it's been really hard, all the times that they sat doing their homework and studying when it felt really, really difficult, or all the times that they did the things that they needed to do to push through that anxiety. So, really letting them know that those exam results don't define them as a human being, that those exam results don't define their worth in this world. And that's a really, really important kind of affirmation to end on. And this, to accompany this webinar, I also have a little guide for parents on positive self-talk. So some of the ideas in there might help you just with wrapping up this conversation. So now, how do we move forward from this conversation? So just going back to that idea that you're working on it together. So you are there to support and to guide. You're not there to completely fix the problem for them. So you want to have this conversation, ask them what do they need or what do they want from you? How can you support them? And as well, within that, just make sure that you don't end up in a position where you are doing everything for them. They still have their own accountability and responsibility around their education. The next thing you can do is support them with their unhelpful thoughts. So remember that they might be experiencing a lot of negative self talk and racing thoughts, a lot of excessive worry whenever they have exam anxiety. So, some of the things that you can do to support them through this is just to help them challenge the thought that they're having. So, look at the evidence for and against that thought. So, for example, if the thought is, I am going to fail my maths test tomorrow, start off by looking at the evidence for that thought. The brain is automatically going to do that anyway because our brain loves evidence, and the brain is automatically going to look for the evidence that supports the thought that we're having. So it might be, I found this concept in maths difficult, or I missed a day last week, so that might make this more difficult, or I have failed a maths test in the past. So what you want to do then is you can note those things. We don't want to ignore them, acknowledge those things, but we want to shift our focus then to the evidence against that thought. So looking at all of the times they showed up to class, all of the times that they worked hard, the questions that they got right, the exams that they did well in, all the study that they've done, and all the effort that they've put in not failing again. So we're shifting our focus to those positive things. Then ask them, what would you say to a friend in this situation? And often it's so much easier to be kind and compassionate to a friend than to ourselves. So if you ask them, what would you say to a friend who is talking to themselves that way? They might come up with something that's really kind and encouraging. And hopefully then they'll be able to direct those kind and compassionate words towards themselves. Another thing you can do is to help them establish routine. So that could be a bedtime routine. It could be a routine for the morning, a routine for study, or for the day of an exam. So, whenever we develop these routines, we can overcome procrastination. We can start to recognize the things that come up as challenges for us, and we can learn how to overcome them. And whenever we have a routine that works for us, we're more likely to thrive in whatever we're doing. And allow your teenager to experiment with these until they find a routine that really works for them. So, for example, whenever they come in from school, a nice routine might be get a snack, get changed, have maybe 10, 20 minutes of downtime, and then maybe practice a little bit of mindfulness before they start to study. And that rest time between school and study or homework is really, really important. School life is so demanding. They're in up to 9 classes a day, taking in so much information and trying to process all of that. And then even when they're on break and when they're on their lunch, they're socializing. So there's all those social cues they have to stay on top of and organizing themselves for the next couple of classes. So helping them to establish routine will be really helpful. Another thing you can do is set boundaries for them. And again, work on this together. So this could be boundaries around bedtime, so that you agree on a bedtime and that you maybe give them some reminders, that you can be firm with them, that they will recognize and predict that you're going to be firm with them, that they know that that's coming. And you might ask them, well, how do you want me to react as your parent now whenever you're not going to bed at 9:30 or 10, whatever time it is? And you can agree then on that action. And whenever that's all laid out and agreed and it's all very predictable, they know what to expect. It will take any kind of arguments away from bedtime, trying to get them to bed at a good hour. The same with morning, getting up out of bed, or also with the phone screen time. So maybe kind of having that discussion around, well, what do you think is a good time for me to take the phone off you? Or what do you think is a healthy time for a healthy number of hours or whatever to be on your phone, that you can kind of come up with those boundaries or restrictions between you. And again, they know what to expect whenever they cross that boundary. Also, direct them towards some relaxation strategies. These are essential in combating exam anxiety. whenever we can take control of our breath and our body in those kind of survival mode moments, whenever we can slow down our breathing and let it become steady and deep, we can send signals to our mind that we are safe, that there is, in fact, no danger, and that our fight, flight, and freeze response can start to de escalate. And so our behaviors, our physical sensations, and our thoughts can all start to de escalate and come away from survival mode. Finally, then, focusing on the effort that they're putting in, recognizing and praising the effort, not the results. So you want to really let them know that you're recognizing all the hard work that they're putting in. Again, like what we said in the previous section, those expectations, letting them know that their hard work is the important thing, that their determination and their consistency, all of those qualities and values, they are the things to be admired and praised. So hopefully all of that has been helpful. Along with this webinar, I have some free resources for you. So I have that positive self-talk guide. It's a very short little booklet that will give you some steps in understanding positive self-talk, some myths around it, and then how you can model it. A sleep meditation, then I know sleep can be a huge issue for anybody who experiences exam anxiety. And then a little mindful parent meditation. And this is nice to try to keep you balanced in those moments that can be difficult in raising a teenager. And finally, if you found this useful, you might want to look at my Exam Empowerment online course. And this course is for anybody or for your teenager who is sitting their exams. So it is a self-paced format. So it's broken up into 5 short video lessons. So I know time is of the essence and time is precious as they prepare for exams. So they can do this in little chunks. So there's an hour and 25 minutes of video lessons. There are 10 audios, so sleep meditations, mindfulness, the breathing exercises, all of that. There's a workbook then that supports all of that learning from the videos. And then there's a mindfulness journal as well, which helps them build that consistency around kind of healthy well-being habits. So there's 5 modules: understanding anxiety, managing our thoughts, managing our behavior, looking at anxiety in the body, and then there's a full relaxation session for them. If you find that you need more help or more support, that you need to find support from a mental health professional, here are some great support services. So there's a few phone numbers and links there that you can look out for. So I'll just leave you with this final message now. Remember that no parent is perfect. No teenager is perfect. Every family is different. You're not going to get it right every time, nor will they. And just credit yourself for doing your best. You've showed up here, you have taken the time to inform yourself and educate yourself around exam anxiety so that you can support your teenager. So that is to be commended hugely. If you want any more information, if I can be supported in any other way, you can look up my website, marybradleywellbeing.com, or you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at Mary Bradley Wellbeing. So thank you. If you are viewing this webinar on Vimeo or YouTube, don't forget to visit www.marybradleywellbeing.com to avail of the following free resources: sleep meditation, positive self-talk guide, and a mindful parent meditation.